What's up, Kurtel?
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Good. I hear you're up in Dubai.
Yeah. So currently in Dubai, we're doing Token 2049 the last couple of days and just the after parties and everything, and it's absolutely mental. It's so good.
Really? Well, I appreciate you joining us, given that I mean, it must be super late there, right?
It's just gone midnight.
Wow. Exciting meet today, that's for sure.
I'm running on fumes and caffeine.
Yeah, I'll lead today. And yeah, for the most part, I think got you covered on that regard.
Jenny, appreciate it. I'm happy to jump in and everything where I can as well.
Yeah, for sure. As always, much appreciated. Hello, Grant. We need to start the thing.
Parker, do you want me to start? Oh, you got it. Cool.
Just got it done. So 3:02, which means time to kick it off. Yeah, everyone, welcome to our 13th or 14th. I'm not sure, but we've been doing this for a while now, and so
Come on, man.
of the Telcoin Platform and TEL and the association of its legal governance entity. And so
Come on, man. Really?
depth with the bridging, but I think we're actually going to launch it a little sooner. And then I'll get to why we're probably going to do that in a minute. Not in a minute, but soon. We have a meeting with auditors tomorrow. We'll be going over scope and just getting the audit started. We're going to start with smart contracts. They'll also be auditing a lot of the protocol and Rust code, and the audits will probably happen in iterations. So we're going to start, with the highest priority stuff and iterate. July 1st, we're planning to start block rewards for MNOs who are on board. That does not mean mainnet will be launched yet. We're going to start getting MNOs in testnet to begin with. So that's kind of the looping back to the testnet. The current testnet is going to get basically demoted to DevNet, and we're going to stand up a new testnet closer to mainnet that's going to have actual MNO participation. So there will be a window there probably where there'll be block rewards before mainnet, but hopefully mainnet is on track for Q3 still. So yeah, the risks on mainnet making that, of course, are testing, as long as nothing too serious comes up, audit findings, and there's a little bit of, risk with the getting through Axelar governance for bridging, but I'll let Marcus, he can talk more about that. And then one note, the base fee structure, it's possible that may change between code freeze and launch, because that's kind of that's a business MNO negotiation point. So that there may be some tweaking there before mainnet launches. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, big news, code freeze on Monday and, leading up to the mainnet launch. So, and then Marcus is going to cover bridging, which is another huge thing.
Yes. Yeah, it's been a huge undertaking recently. The three of us on the protocol team have been in marathon mode probably the last month, or 2 months. We're very proud of all the progress we've made. Again, yeah, the some of the issues and the sort of like record keeping for the work that we've been doing on GitHub is largely out of date, because we've been focusing on getting the implementations and the code all finalized and feature complete so that we can move to code freeze. And again, that's the purpose of a code freeze, is to have a stable release that can be audited effectively, and essentially get sort of a comprehensive picture of what the protocol looks like for the auditors to make security assessments on. So there are some updates I want to give for bridging, but I think first I'll sort of build off of what Steve just went through. A lot of the progress and like efforts that we've been focusing on recently, on my end, bridging largely, but on the protocol team side at large, Steve and Grant have led the way on sort of our epic schemas. Where if you're familiar with epics on Ethereum, we structure similarly, where epics are not a fixed number of blocks like they are in Ethereum, but instead of a fixed period of time. And that's to sort of accommodate our consensus mechanisms, which sort of has like workers on each node that build blocks and execute asynchronously. So there's a lot of complexity in play, and so we're spending a lot of time implementing tests, documentation for one another. Sorry. Oh, I think Parker's microphone is working again.
So did I go through that entire part and no one could hear me?
Yeah, we could not hear you, unfortunately.
From like the outset at all?
Well, no, we were able to hear you for quite a while, and then it just suddenly stopped. I'm not sure what.
Where did it stop? I'm sorry.
Good question. Does anybody remember?
It was still quite early on, but it definitely did stop. You got a little way in on the usual spiel of it, and then it stopped partway through.
Did I talk about what the purpose of these meetings?
I think we heard that.
Yeah.
And I talk about the two roles of governance in terms of planning and financing infrastructure on the Telcoin platform and allocating TEL.
We might not have gotten
I
there.
believe it cut out there, somewhere around there.
I would remember the word allocating, so I don't think we got there.
Yeah, we definitely didn't get there. I probably used it 5 times. Who knows? Well, isn't that something? Okay, well then I will kind of run that back really quickly if that's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, just at the highest level, these meetings are really critical to us because, everywhere and always governance is going to be a social construct, whether or not you're communicating over the internet, Tesla coils, whatever it is, it's people making decisions about things. And so we need to create this sort of area for people instead of just going back and forth over, their keyboards, to actually talk about our shared proposals, aspirations, problems, so that we can bring them to a vote in a way that's unanimous, which is one of our really core values, is having unanimity across different voting groups. And so these structured forums, they offer us the ability to talk about these different proposals that we've been working on as a community, both with the council members, with the community, and in terms of providing updates with the platform and having open communication between everyone, and importantly, these interactive Q&A sessions where if you have a question, like, come on up and tell us about it. It's a lot easier to communicate that way than it is to go in and read the chat and answer questions that way. A lot of times people are typing and we're not sure if it's a question or something else, and so we might cut them off early. So at the end of the meet, just come on up and speak with us. That'd be great. This global council meeting, the Platform and Treasury Council meetings, we represent this global layer of governance that, unlike the Telex Council, which would be considered a local council that governs the middle layer of the platform or the exchange layer called Telex, we look at the platform as this indivisible system, and we govern both, at that level of viewing the application layer, the middle layer, and the base layer as one system. And we also govern the TEL Treasury itself, and we're looking for outcomes from that combined layers to inform our decisions about how we should allocate TEL. And so that brings me to what our core duties are, what our roles is. Why does governance exist at all in the first place? And that's for two purposes. That's a sort of doctrinal term of provisioning, which can be dialed into planning and financing infrastructure construction and maintenance, providing information, delivering all sorts of different goods that the community wants, such as planning and financing marketing initiatives, which we'll have someone come in today to talk about, along with some other agencies that are really interested in potentially working with us. And so, yeah, we do provisioning as the one hand, where we plan and finance infrastructure development and provide information and other goods. And then we regulate TEL issuance, or we allocate TEL. Our role is to allocate TEL within the platform from its primary. And those are formal proposals that'll then be implemented if we approve of them. So you have to vote on all of them, full stop. And then we have to maintain consistent communication by coming to all of these meetings. And if you don't show up to one of these meetings as a council member, you need to say in advance, hey, here's why I can't make it. Things happen in life. We're all people. Things happen in life. You just tell everyone, hey, I can't make it to this meeting for this reason, but here are my thoughts on those proposals. that are currently in the queue that we've been discussing. And so, of course, in addition to that, our role is to take proposals, review them, and analyze them, and provide our thoughts and try and bring them to completion. We provide updates to the community about how the platform's working, and how we can adjust what we're doing to achieve our goals. And so we have to vigilantly monitor the platform and the community, and then ultimately we need to enforce the operational rules, such as communication rules, which is at the global layer, we determine things like recurring council meets, when they should have to be done. So each of the councils has their own meeting that they have to do every 2 weeks. We set that rule, but they set when they have their meeting. And so, those can ultimately be changed, things like that. And so, yeah, just to dive into today's agenda, basically, last week is a little bit of a recap. We talked about Telcoin Network, which is getting really exciting right now. We're at the point where it's almost a code freeze. And then we have the marketing campaign that we went through last week as a community, and that's been ultimately developed into a forum proposal that we're then going to discuss today a little bit, try and refine it, improve it. None of us are perfect. I'm certainly no expert at writing RFQs and marketing proposals, and that's really why we wrote it, and why we wrote all these proposals. And I think we'll be bringing up at least one of the agencies to speak, which should be fun. And then we'll do questions from the community. So without further ado, and with complete heartfelt apologies for the redundant and actually silent nature of the way I kicked off today's meeting, I'd like to bring up Grant and Marcus to talk about Telcoin Network progress. Thank you.
Thanks, Parker. I think you had just jumped on as soon as Steve finished to give a great update for us. And so we were on to Marcus with the bridgings. So I'll let you continue, Marcus. You're doing great.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll try and keep it, high level, very, very abstract, so that I can communicate at best and efficiently. So yeah, like we've said, we're nearing our code freeze deadline, and of course, that freeze is not literal. There will be added tests. There will be refactoring of existing logic, cleanup of some configurations, and sort of organizing things. But as far as feature and functionality completeness goes, that's what code freeze refers to. And so Steve had mentioned that we are meeting with Spearbit tomorrow. I've worked with Spearbit in the past. I have some acquaintances who actually work there as Solidity auditors, and from what I understand, they also have an extremely talented Rust chops engineers I should say, white hats with Rust chops as well. So they'll be doing the initial audit for Telcoin Network. So generally, we are very close to having sort of a finalized. I think one way to refer to it is alpha mainnet. Another way to refer to it is, I suppose, like a MNO launched testnet, or an MNO pilot testnet. And these are effectively identical because if you're not familiar, blockchain testnets, devnets, they operate identically to production mainnet blockchains. The only difference is sort of the validator set and the node operators, where usually testnets are run by groups who focus on developer relations, or hobbyists sometimes will run Sepolia nodes. For example, Sepolia is the Ethereum testnet. And so because they function identically, the fact that we are sort of able to meet the code freeze for a pilot testnet, which MNOs can join, begin running nodes, perform staking actions, conclude epics, participate in consensus, and execute against state transitions for the network, means that the auditors, while they will be looking at code frozen pilot testnet implementations, those are exactly the same as they will be for production. So it's a huge milestone, and there's been a lot going on. I do want to sort of list a few of the things that we've completed. They may be a bit technical, but it's partially because I think, I want to sing the praises of what our team has accomplished. So Steve mentioned a lot of Epic work, so Epic managers and updates to task managers. We've implemented system calls. We've essentially sort of converged on a consensus spec, which is very efficient, very performant, optimized for MNOs who will have access to beefy hardware, and a lot of the execution work had been done in the past. So like things like workers running asynchronously under a node, multiple workers running asynchronously, and communicating across a P2P network. Steve implemented libp2p for us, and so we've really made a lot of progress. And blockchains are fun because there's cryptography involved. We've done a lot of thinking, discussing, and implementing of our key managements. So validators, i.e. MNOs, will be responsible for a couple of keys that I don't really need to go into, but ECDSA keys, which are standard Ethereum addresses. Is my volume off? Sorry, I just saw that message in the chat. If I'm very loud, volume stress is yes, you're talking about funds, not sound. Okay, sorry. How many MNOs? So that's we're gonna answer questions at the end, but yeah, keep your questions coming. So essentially, with the code freeze, we're going to start with smart contract audit, and the reason for that is because we have two sort of core Telcoin contracts that are more or less critical to the operation of the protocol, and a lot of the protocol implementation actually has been downstream of those smart contracts. On a high level, the two are sort of the Telcoin ERC20 implementation on Telcoin network, and that's called the RWTEL module. But there's a lot of documentation on it and how it works, so I won't go into depth. But in a nutshell, that is our interchain token service implementation for Telcoin. It's the contract that upgrades Telcoin with interchain token service functionality. If you're not familiar with the interchain token service, it's sort of a interoperability protocol that's one of the central offerings that Axelar, who runs Axelar Network and a number of things across multiple blockchains. It's one of their main sort of achievements is an interoperability protocol that is blockchain agnostic. It's EVM compatible. They're working on a Solana integration at the moment. So TEL is a token worthy of being a part of that interoperability standard, and that required a Solidity implementation, which is baked into the protocol literally as a system precompile, which is fancy words for a smart contract that is more than a first-class citizen in a blockchain client. So it is a contract that is critical to Telcoin network. I think I'm just going to leave it at that before I get too involved. So that contract will be audited. The spec and implementation for it are finalized. I have a couple of little minor changes planned, which will come in over the weekend. But so that's one of the two system contracts which we'll be starting to audit. And yeah, as you know, Telcoin Network's native gas currency will be Telcoin. So obviously the interchain TEL implementation sort of has to be central to everything that we do with Telcoin Network. The second system contract which will be audited is called the Consensus Registry. It handles a number of things. So it's I guess I could boil it down to three things. It stores Epic information, so consensus information, hence the consensus part of Consensus Registry. And it is also a registry for onboarding, offboarding, managing, storing validators. So MNOs, when they join the Telcoin network as a node operator, they must become a validator and they register on the Consensus Registry contract. There's a whole process. There's